Jim Juback, and welcome to my YouTube video for Wednesday, July 26th. I'm wearing my Metropolis False Maria t-shirt. Can you see False Maria now? Wow. You know, the robot meant to take the place of the good Maria who's organizing the workers. Seems an appropriate symbol of our times. As we head into a potential UPS strike, because those workers just really don't like the idea that going back into the back of their trucks where it's 130 degrees is unreasonable. I don't know what's the matter with them. They should just be grateful to have a job. No? So what if it kills you? Hey, you know, life is hard. Capitalism. Speaking of which, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. You should subscribe to my YouTube channel where we talk about capitalism. And it's free, and they get a notification of when we do our next videos, which are about 3 a week. They're not always on the same day. Things are getting a little chaotic here. We're in the process of moving to a country you may have heard of. My wife and I are moving to Italy. It will have no effect at all on this site because we're just going to keep working there. And my service guy, Mark, who does all of the fixes to when something goes wrong and you can't get in, is remaining here. He lives here. What can you do? Anyway, so starting in September, this site will be coming to you from Venice, in fact, for 6 to 9 months. Anyway, so you can get more of my stuff free on jubackpicks.com. 3 portfolios, including the dividend portfolio, which I'll talk about tomorrow. And you can get a subscription to my paid site, that's jubackam.com, and you'll find links to that down below. Okay, here's today's topic: the coming end of business as usual. One of the things that's most extraordinary to me about the global climate catastrophe, and I don't think that's underselling it at all, is how little effect this has had on the way that financial markets behave and how we think about financial markets. For example, we think that the Fed and the other world central banks are still in control of the global economy in ways that they were when we weren't worried about 60, 70, 80,000 people dying in Europe because of the heat. So one of the things where you can see that this is going on and what's going to happen is by looking at the homeowners insurance market in 3 states, Florida, California, and Louisiana. Louisiana is mostly hurricane stuff, and they've had a dozen insurers go belly up in the state, so that means they haven't been operating anymore. About 100,000 households in Louisiana have been forced to go from private insurers into the state fund. Now, the idea that a conservative, fiscally conservative state like Louisiana would have a state-run insurance pool, well, Florida does. In fact, the Louisiana pool is modeled on Florida, and that's because in Florida, 16 storms and hurricanes since 2020 have resulted in $100 to $200 billion worth of damage. And you've had insurers basically say, hey, we either need to raise rates if we're going to stay in this market at all. So you've seen homeowners insurance policies in Florida going up 200% since 2019. Or the insurers are simply pulling out of the market totally because they can't reinsure themselves and they can't pass on the risk. So a lot of people have been forced into what's called the Citizens Property Plan, and it's picked up about 1.4 million policyholders. 1 in 8 homeowners in Florida is now insured by the state-run fund. Now, if you think this is a sustainable model, I have some swamp real estate that I'd love to sell you. But what's interesting here is that in order to keep the property market going in Florida, the state of Florida, a conservative red state, has decided that they're going to do what amounts to state-sponsored socialism, as long as it involves insurance. Because one of the things that's very, very important about the real estate market is you really can't sell a house unless you can get a mortgage, and you can't get a mortgage unless you can get homeowners insurance. It's simply not something the market will tolerate. So you got that going on in Florida. Blue State, California, exactly the same thing. Different set of problems. There it's mostly wildfires, which produce wildflowers at the end. And the average homeowner policy in California is up only 16%, not 200% as in Florida. But you've had insurers pull out of the state, so that is a deceptive figure, because if you can't get insurance, it doesn't really matter what your policy would be. And again, the state has a plan called FAIR, which is a state-sponsored insurance pool, and its enrollment's up about 2%, 2x, since 2019. Okay, these are all sort of harbingers, I think, of the way that we're going to rethink capitalism in an age of global catastrophe. We're going to allocate costs in different ways. So, hey, maybe the government will pick up, insurance to preserve the property, the real estate market. Central banks, well, how do you control inflation if the issue is not supply and demand, but big spikes in all kinds of commodities that result from global shortages, to global crash programs to do this or that in terms of insurance. The idea that we won't spend money we don't have to save infrastructure, communities, cities, I think is laughable. We will spend money we don't have. So deficit spending, inflation, higher interest rates, all those things which we just sort of assume that, hey, the Fed will just be able to raise another 25 basis points and keep inflation under control. And my response to this is, rethink your portfolio now before all this comes to bite it in somewhere down the road. And that's the difficult part. You need to start moving now, I think, before a lot of these effects are obvious, but it is going to be a different world. Anyway, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. That way you get notification when we do our next ones. All that's free. Subscribing to my YouTube channel is free. You get my free site, jubekpicks.com, and that's and then there's my paid site, jubekam.com. Jubekpicks has 3 portfolios. Jubekam has 6 portfolios. You see links to all those down below. Thanks very much for watching.